Look at this!
What did you find?
What's on the cover?
What does it say?
Let's open it up.
Founded in 1959, Fairview was one of the first developer-produced suburbs in Calgary, led by what was then Western Canada's largest developer, Kelwood Corporation. Construction began in 1959, with its first families moving in soon after and a community association being established only a year later in 1960. Located at the city's southeast edge, Fairview is boxed in by Deerfoot Trail to the east, McLeod Trail to the west, Glenmore Trail to the north, and Heritage Drive to the south. Its rolling topography, proximity to major thoroughfares and work areas, and its attractive view are some of the advantages of this community. The area was originally designed for 1,100 homes and about 3,500 people. The late 60s saw a jump from around 3,700 people to a roaring 6,400, almost double its intended population. Most of these new residents were young families. As with any community, its physical layout and design had significant impacts on its history and on the lives of its residents. Fairview's success as a home for young families was facilitated by its position at the edge of Calgary, away from the hustle and bustle of the city and its undulating edges. The community's design was heavily influenced by the planning concept of the neighborhood unit. According to this concept, popularized by American planner Clarence Perry, each community should be surrounded by arterial roads, have a self-contained street network that discourages through traffic, contain local commercial businesses, and support a population large enough for an elementary school. A self-sustained system. Fairview has many of these characteristics, but departs from the neighborhood unit concept in some significant ways. Fairmont Drive winds its way through several communities and is classified by the Calgary Transportation Plan as a collector road. Though Fairmont Drive was explicitly given a meandering route to lower vehicle speeds and increase pedestrian safety, planning efforts were not enough to deter through traffic. The City of Calgary reports that even in 1963, Fairmont Drive had an average weekday traffic volume of 7,000 to 10,000 vehicles. Partly encouraging this through traffic was the commercial center's placement in the community's center, and to a lesser extent the two schools. Fairview wasn't just a community with homes, commercial frontages, and schools. The area also has a large industrial center to its north that was intended to provide employment for nearby residents. To the northwest, Fairview's natural topography and an installed buffer strip acted as a barrier, protecting residents from any negative impacts resulting from the industrial activity. Though there is evidence that Kelwood Corporation intended to place a similar buffer strip between the northern industrial area and adjacent homes, this never occurred. This omission effectively set the stage for decades of community grievances and tension between nearby industrial uses and Fairview residents. The objection to the industrial area began in the late 1970s, when Fairview residents began to file formal complaints with the city and later the government of Alberta. These concerns went virtually unaddressed for the next 2 decades. Although the industrial area was viewed by many residents as a drawback, the community association served to counterbalance this as a catalyst for positive change. The Fairview Community Association was established shortly after the completion of the neighborhood. It was established as a nonprofit association on July 14, 1960, again just a year after the community was founded. In 1971, the Community Association entered into a matching funds agreement with the City of Calgary to construct an expanded community hall and hockey arena. Fairview residents raised money through fundraising events and a $100 per household contribution, and as promised, the city provided the remaining funds. In 1972, the arena opened. Only 3 years later, in 1975, the facility's loan was paid in full and celebrated with a public ceremony in which the mortgage certificate was burned. A year later, the community hall was expanded yet again. Scouting groups and softball teams filled the community, giving all children in the area the opportunity to get involved in community life. Volunteer efforts from the parents allowed all activities to flow smoothly and the facilities to remain in optimal playing conditions. The Community Association represented the values and aspirations of the community and its members, allowing residents to direct the community around potential uses and conflicts, as well as engage residents in participating in a thriving local network. By the 1980s, Fairview's population had declined to about 5,000 people, in line with the typical neighborhood cycle. Despite this, and in part due to the efforts of its community association, Fairview remained a vibrant neighborhood with several annual events, a youth club, and other social groups. In the 1990s, Fairview's population began to stabilize at around 3,800 as young families began to move into the neighborhood once again. In 2001, an industrial fire caused the neighborhood and both its schools to be evacuated. The city then initiated a land use study in 2003, which resulted in the rezoning of the industrial land immediately north of Fairview for higher order uses such as office and certain low-intensity light industrial uses. In 2006, the Community Association gave up management of the community center due to growing maintenance costs. In 2007, Calgary City Council approved a $1 million renovation for the Fairview Arena, recognizing its wide community benefits. In that same year, Indefinite Arts, an innovative visual arts center that serves adults with developmental disabilities, took over the management of the community center while ensuring to provide the Community Association with office space.
Today, the community of Fairview is undergoing a slow-motion renaissance of sorts. In the past, its residents chose the area because of its separation from the core. Now, they are drawn to its close proximity. Fairview is a community growing by approximately 9% each year. The city average is higher at 18%. 75% of the population is in the labor force, with the rest most likely being under working age. 22% of the population are immigrants, mostly of Asian and European descent. The number of dwellings has remained relatively stable due to its R1 status and absence of any recent multifamily developments. Growth in Fairview can be explained mostly by new families moving in and growing, a demographic that seems to be typical for the neighborhood. Geographically, Fairview is in a very unique place, which offers many opportunities as problems. As mentioned earlier, Fairview sits nestled among 4 major roadways and roughly halfway between the downtown core and the edge of the city. With 83% of its residents commuting to work by car, the majority of the members can also take part in inner-city events, as well as get out of the city on weekends with ease. For the remaining 17% who don't travel by car, the experience of getting around is quite different. As a pedestrian or cyclist, the large roadways surrounding the community become fences, being crossable only at a couple points. To add to the difficulties, there is only a single bus line running through Fairview, which stops every 30 minutes on weekdays. The community's saving grace is the C train station at its southwest corner that provides access to the rest of the city. Fairview is surrounded by many amenities that are just a short drive away, and an average walk for those dedicated, including Heritage Meadows shopping area and a line of diverse stores in McLeod Trail, the Farmers Market, and of course, Chinook Center. The community has had a few disputes in recent years over the allowance of secondary suites, the renovation of playgrounds and streetscapes, and the development of a community garden in a plot of land besides elementary school. Fairview now looks to address these issues in the upcoming year as the city of Calgary morphs and grows.
The future holds much potential for this community, as Calgary's population swells over a predicted 2.4 million people by 2040. Fairview will face an identity crisis as the center city grows outwards to meet it and its property values rise, its proximity to transportation infrastructure, and the C-Train attracts interest for development. The ways the community deals with this growth will determine its success. Along with addressing population growth in the city based on some of the feedback the community has given, there are many more ways in which the community of Fairview can be improved. The community members hope to see the area become a more cohesive and connected system with more services within it instead of surrounding it. Fairview can be imagined as a neighborhood that will be denser but still retains the same community feeling that it has today. The safety concerns on Fairmont Drive can be addressed through its transition to a main street for the community, complete with multi-unit housing and shopping, while still retaining much of its original personalities. Fairmont Drive has the potential to be a street that unites the community instead of dividing it. The community could become completely walkable and bikeable, and be more closely connected to its surrounding communities in Calgary, with better transit connections and pedestrian corridors like a pedestrian bridge over one of the main highways. By addressing the community's concerns and implementing strategies that enhance its potential, Fairview can become a vibrant, sustainable community that still reflects its original identity.
What does the last page say?
It's blank. It looks like it's up to us to put in our own ideas.